The banking system is collapsing. Pull your money out of the banks now. Now. And don't just keep it in cash. Go put it in something useful like water or something. Yeah, last night, the Federal Reserve had to pump $29 billion into banks because basically they're going to collapse because they've been, like the government, with your money. So, you can believe me or not, that's totally fine. I really couldn't care. But, yeah, I'd go take your money out the bank and go buy gold or water or a water filter or something that will be useful whenever all this shit collapses. But you can look it up yourself. The banks are so get your money out.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking into the banks and how everybody's in debt.
No, God!
Yes, everybody. Even the people that you think are not are in debt, and it's due to the economy.
Don't trust big banks or small banks. Banks are Ponzi schemes run by morons.
We're going to take a look at some of these videos, guys. Sit back and relax.
Terrible breaking news. The banks are literally running out of money.
After the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank on Friday, another bank just shut down.
Today alone, the banks have had to borrow $50 billion in emergency liquidity.
Wanted to make another quick update video. So I was talking to someone that works for a media organization, and they're like, why is no one covering what's happening with the banks right now and the repo market? And I was like, well, if you cover that, it's going to immediately cause a run on the banks, and it is going to cause a decline in the stock market. But here is the seriousness of what is happening right now that I explained to this individual. So as you have noticed, in 2 weeks, the banks have borrowed $50 billion in emergency liquidity that was not accessed anywhere near those levels last year. That right there is an indicator we have a serious issue. And then on top of that, if you look at the borrowing that was done by this, but today on the repo market, $8 billion of it was mortgage-backed securities versus treasuries. So I give you the pawn shop analogy. When you need to go get quick cash, a diamond ring is a treasury. That's like a $100 bill, right? You give that as collateral and you get back cash. Mortgage-backed securities are garbage. It's a stack of IOUs on the backs of people's mortgages that aren't even being paid right now. So what you guys need to understand, billions and billions and billions of dollars of direct deposits, government funding to contractors, none of that is happening. So none of this liquidity is going into the banks. Worse yet, because a lot of individuals work for the government and work for the military, they cannot pay loans back. So they can't pay car loans, they can't pay credit cards, they can't pay mortgages. That's how banks get cash back.
All right, so this was taken right before the government reopened, but the same situation still applies. If people are behind on debt about a month, what do you expect? They're not going to be able to pay these bills. You're going to see a lot of repossessions. You're going to see a lot of foreclosures. You're going to see a lot of bankruptcies.
I'm all out of money!
Everybody's going to be feeling the hurt because people don't necessarily have financial literacy. It's not a common thing. As much as I thought it was, it really isn't. A lot of people don't know how to spend their money. A lot of people don't know how to live below their means.
I'm flying that son of a bitch straight into bankruptcy,
which is going to cause destruction.
So if banks are not getting direct deposits from the government and no funding from any government source at this point in time, and they're not receiving paybacks on loans, and all that's happening is people are taking cash out. They're taking cash out of their various banks to cover rent, to cover mortgage, to cover car loans. That's why this November 1st date is so fucking dangerous, because car loans are due on the 1st, mortgages are due on the 1st, credit cards are due on the 1st. And so all the direct deposits that are not showing up from the federal government workers to contractors to any other agency that's not getting paid. I don't know about the military yet. I still don't know if they were able to come up with the $9 billion, but let's say that doesn't happen either. Now the banks are out billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're not getting any loan repayments coming in. So what do I think is going to happen next week? And it clearly looks like the shutdown will go into next week. I think there might might be very well a run on some of the smaller banks. I've heard reports, I don't know how true they are, but some individuals are having trouble, especially trying to get out large sums of cash. So a few individuals I've seen comments on just through the TikTok have said, you know, they tried to take out a large deposit, bank wouldn't grant that, wouldn't allow that to leave the bank. They didn't have it, basically. So that's essentially what's happening when there's no cash, when there's no liquidity, the banks can't meet these withdrawals, and then we come to a standstill and we have a run on the banks. And so what I think is going to happen next week, after November 1st, is the SNAP benefits will end and we will not have any of that money going into the banks, and we are going to potentially see a run on the grocery stores and a run on the banks, because people are not going to have SNAP benefits, people are not going to have paychecks to buy food, and then on top of that, banks aren't going to have money to meet withdrawals. So we'll see what happens next week, but there's no intention of reopening the government before November 1st. And we're just right now heading straight into the Big Short Part 2.
2026 is going to be one heck of a year. And if you have the ambition to start a channel like I'm doing here, or any type of ambition of doing something where it's tapping into your dream, this is the absolute best time to start, because next year is going to be one heck of a year. And like I said with the AI stuff, it's like you get in early, you learn this stuff now, you'll be able to set yourself apart from a lot of people. A lot of people don't like the inclusion of this, but you can't stop something bigger than you, okay?
That's some old bullshit.
So it's that whole, that saying, either you get down or you lay down. Some people gonna get down with the get down.
Down like a clown, Charlie. Down like a clown, Charlie.
Other people are gonna lay down.
Another spooky story for you this Halloween. Today alone, the banks have had to borrow $50 billion in emergency liquidity, making it the largest amount they have had to borrow since the government shut down and people missed their first paychecks on October 15th. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically people don't have paychecks coming in to be able to, just go pay their bills. So they're having to go to the bank and withdraw the money out of their accounts and actually go pay those bills or buy those groceries. And the banks don't really have the money on hand because they lended it out elsewhere. And so the banks are having to borrow from the emergency liquidity market, which is backed by bonds and mortgage-backed securities. And since the government shut down and the first missed paycheck happened on October 15th, the banks have had to borrow a total of $106 billion. And you guys, that's not really good, because sooner or later, the banks aren't going to have your money to give back to you. And of course, tomorrow, 40 million people are set to lose their ability to buy groceries at all. And so all of this is going on simultaneously while people are worried about how they're going to pay their bills or buy groceries for their kids.
So you got the macro and the micro. Yeah, so the way that works, if you see the government doing one thing, you should probably take the same approach. The government is borrowing money from the banks, which is borrowing money from bonds and mortgage loans and whatnot. But when people can't pay these things, what do they rely on? The banks, which is the credit. So it's literally like a domino effect. This is gonna be really, really bad.
It's about to go down.
And it kind of is a telling sign, because the company or the country, it's gonna end up going bankrupt. You gotta stop having that hive mind mindset. People think the same. A bunch of NPCs, non-player characters. But those types of people, those are the only people keeping this stuff afloat. They're keeping the narrative alive. The ship's sinking. You gotta do something to set yourself apart.
After the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank on Friday, another bank just shut down. Regulators today abruptly closed Signature Bank. It has offices throughout New York and Connecticut.
Citing systemic risk, regulators shut down Signature Bank Sunday. The company told us no comment. The New York-based full-service commercial bank has 40 private client offices.
This is a byproduct of what we saw with Silicon Valley Bank. Uninsured depositors at any bank
could start stampeding to their bank to take money out.
The Wall Street Journal reported that Signature was reeling from a bet on crypto banking. Earlier Sunday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen addressed the FDIC seizing control of California-based Silicon Valley Bank on Friday. It's the second largest bank collapse in U.S. history and is already affecting tech businesses it financed, including Roblox, Etsy, and Roku. It sparked alarm about reverberations amid rising interest rates.
Hi, we need to talk about this. The Federal Reserve has what's called a standing repo facility. In English, it's utilized and created in 2021 as a bank account of last resort, where banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, anybody can go to the Federal Reserve and say, hi, I need extra cash. Here are my bonds. Here are my securities. Here are my assets. And in English, they're simply just able to exchange hard assets for money. Now, why would a bank need money? Why would a bank need money? Now, before we go into that, the banks tapped the Fed's standing repo facility in record number amid month-end pressures. What does this mean? What it means is banks last week were asking the Federal Reserve, hi, can we sell our assets to you and get some cash? And if you're wondering how often this account gets used, it really doesn't. It doesn't get used hardly at all. Really, since 2020's QE, quantitative easing money printing, we've had a highly liquid banking system, but now we're starting to see that dwindle as $50 billion got moved. Guys, $50 billion from next to nothing. It was hardly ever getting utilized for anything even close to a 7-digit number. And then all of a sudden we see billions getting utilized. Now, why would a bank choose to do this? Let's speculate just a little bit. If you were late on your credit card payment and you don't make your credit card payment, who isn't getting paid? The bank. If you have a car payment and it's financed through a bank and you don't pay your car payment, as many millions are late on, who's not getting paid when they don't make their car payment? The bank. And when millions of families are thinking that they're not going to receive food, where do you think they're going to go to get the funds they need to be able to get food? The bank. When payments are being missed, the bank is losing money. When interest rates are high and new debt's not being made, the bank's not making money. And when the government shut down and there's still payments that need to be made, but the money's not coming in, well, we're seeing it happen live in real time that the banks are relying on new money from the Federal Reserve, selling off their assets to the Federal Reserve in exchange for quick liquidity. We're going to see a bank failure and or, could be both, money printing from the Federal Reserve. Why? Because we are walking into and we are in the midst of a liquidity crisis. The banks are beginning to tighten. Credit is beginning to crunch. And these were the warning signs that we saw leading into 2008 that we did not address. We let it happen. Then we allowed all the money to get printed and now all the assets inflated. So let me tell you right now, the banks are struggling. We could see a failure. Money is going to get printed. It's the only way we can get rates down. It's the only way we can add liquidity. And we're seeing it real time with things like these. $50 billion from near nothing? That is not a yellow flag. That is a red flag. When you watch the documentary in 6-8 years about what happened right now, you're going to hear this in the documentary. They're going to talk about liquidity crisis. The banks need money because they're running out.
Phew! I literally just said it. The banks are failing. And if you haven't noticed, about a month ago, everybody was buying things like silver, gold.
I love gold.
You know, tangible things. They were putting their money into the stock market for those things. Why? Why? They were moving their money from the bank and putting it into those assets. Why? It's because of this. And if you have insider information or you were privy to it earlier than everybody else, that's exactly what you're gonna do.
Yep.
The telling signs are literally in our face, yet we're in a society that just doesn't think.
Okay, I was just thinking about this, and I used to be a spicy dancer, scripper, if you will, and I was doing like a dance for this one guy, and like we were talking, right? And usually like the few things that I used to ask when I used to be a scripper was like, you know, what do you do for work? Where do you stay at? All that, just like, you know, make small talk. And this guy said he was a banker, like a big banker, like CEO type banker, right? And he was like, and I'm going to tell you something and you should listen. And I was like, okay. And I don't want to make y'all nervous or anything, but this man said that he's been working in finance pretty much his whole life. And he is supposed to like monitor like trends in finances and stuff. And he was like, by 2025, most of our banks are going to be closed. And we're going to be struggling to fund like anything because all of like the prices of living is going to skyrocket so high that people aren't going to be able to like pay for things. Which is gonna like fuck up a bunch of other shit. I'm not a finance bro, but he was essentially like, yeah, like banks are gonna start shutting down in 2025. And like I was just watching this fucking video of this dude being like, everything's gone wrong in 2025, restart it. And all the comments were like, 2025 is giving 2020. And then I started thinking about, like, what do I know about 2025? And then the only thing I could think of was this random customer at the strip club being like, in 2025, all the banks of America are going to shut down. So, like, make sure that all your money is cash and, like, all this other stuff. And, like, this guy could have been crazy. He's just a random man at a strip club. But on the off chance that he was actually some CEO banker guy and has been doing finances for his whole life and does follow finance trends, should we be worried? Should we be worried?
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It caused me to come out here and put myself in front of you guys. That's how much turmoil we're really in. Guys, it's about to get bad. It's truly about to get bad. And the signs are literally in front of us. And we're so docile to everything, it may not make a difference.
Doesn't it bother you even a little?
But I appreciate you guys coming back to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Watch the last video that pops up at the end. And if there's certain content that you prefer, comment. And I'll make more videos about that. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Terrible breaking news. The banks are literally running out of money. And it doesn't matter that the Fed just lowered interest rates because banks literally don't have money to lend. See, they're tightening their books, cutting credit, and that's why you're seeing all these layoffs everywhere. It's not because of AI. It's because companies can't get loans anymore. And that's what happens right before a depression. We're not heading for a recession. We're heading for a full-blown depression. Mark my words.